Welcome to Dark Knight Films Reviews, circa 1940. I'm your host, Matt Spease, and today we are looking at 9 more Universal monster movies. This time from the 1940s, from 1940 and to 1943. Yeah, they churned out so many of these films that between a span of only like 4 years, they had done 9 films. Quite impressive, considering in the 1930s that they released 9 films in the span of 10 years. All right, so starting off our review, we begin with The Invisible Man Returns, released in 1940. The Invisible Man Returns stars Cedric Hardwicke, Vincent Price, Nan Gray, John Sutton, and is directed by Joe May. Now, The Invisible Man Returns is a really, really good Invisible Man movie. But in comparison to the original James Whale, Claude Rains movie, it is a much more serious tone, and it just does not feel like a follow-up to the off-the-wall and fun Invisible Man by James Whale. Joe May does do a great job. I mean, this is like I said, this is a more dramatic take on the Invisible Man. Cedric Hardwicke is basically our villain of this piece in here, and he played that very well in a lot of his films during this time period. Vincent Price is our Invisible Man, and much like Claude Rains' portrayal of the character, they are capitalizing on Vincent Price's distinct kick-ass voice, which was a smart move, but you never really hardly see Vincent Price just like Claude Rains, except for in the final moments of the film. Nan Gray is beautiful as Vincent Price's character's love interest in here. She's really good. She always was good in movies that she was in. John Sutton is he's pretty good in this. The real standout, just like the original Invisible Man, is the special effects. As usual, I mean, the special effects in The Invisible Man Returns, even though it's more of a serious take on the story, the special effects live up to that original movie. So I will give The Invisible Man Returns a 7.5 out of 10. It is a really good follow-up to The Invisible Man, if you get past the fact that it's not going to be as quirky and it's not going to be as fun as the original. Next, we have The Mummy's Hand, released in 1940. The Mummy's Hand stars Dick Foran, Peggy Moran, Wallace Ford, George Zucco, Tom Tyler, and is directed by Christy Caban. Now, this director's, his full name is William Christy Caban, and he decided for his on-screen credits to just go by Christy Odd, but okay. But I can't argue with his directing. He does a very good job on this Mummy sequel. Even though it's more of a remake of the Imhotep one, and it's a different mummy in this one. This one we have Karis as our mummy instead of Imhotep. And Tom Tyler plays Karis pretty good here, considering he was more a cowboy actor and was known for playing Captain Marvel in the Adventures of Captain Marvel serial at the time. Dick Foran and Peggy Moran have a really good chemistry as love interests in the story. Wallace Ford is a good comic relief character in there. And George Zucco as our basic lead villain that is controlling Tom Tyler's mummy is very good in his performance as well. So not a bad follow-up to The Mummy, even though it has basically nothing to do with the original film and basically is sort of a remake of it instead of being a direct sequel. But I will give The Mummy's Hand a 8.0 out of 10. It's a damn good mummy movie. Next we have The Invisible Woman, released in 1940. The Invisible Woman stars Virginia Bruce, John Barrymore, John Howard, Charles Ruggles, and Shemp Howard, and is directed by A. Edward Sutherland. Whereas I just said that Invisible Man Returns was a much more dramatic take on The Invisible Man, The Invisible Woman makes it a full-on, just fun comedy. And I love it. I love The Invisible Woman. I did not know what to think of it when I first watched it. I was thinking, okay, it's just going to be The Invisible Man with a female in it. But the quirky, fun performances of Virginia Bruce, she's just having so much fun with this character she's playing in here. And John Barrymore as the kind of mad scientist that uses his little machine to make her invisible in this film. It's just to show you how crazy and fun this thing is. I mean, you have freaking Shemp Howard in this thing. A future, well, he was one of the Three Stooges before Curly started with the group and eventually went to Columbia. But before he rejoined the group, after Curly had his bad stroke and everything, I mean, he was making stuff like this. He was making John Wayne movies. I mean, he was everywhere. Shemp Howard was big. And having Shemp Howard in a Universal Monsters movie that is just so much fun. And he's so much fun in this role, playing this little henchman character in here. He's just... This movie is just such a fun film. And Charles Ruggles playing the manservant, if you will, to John Howard's playboy, billionaire playboy character. I mean, some of the things he gets into in this film is just hilarious. So, I mean, between him and John Barrymore's fun performance as the mad scientist character, and Shemp being in it. You even had Margaret Hamilton, freaking the Wicked Witch of the West herself in this, playing like the landlady to John Barrymore's character. I mean, this movie's just too much fun. So, my review of The Invisible Woman from 1940. I give this film an 8.5 out of 10. I absolutely love this film. I adore this film. This is just such a fun, universal film. You may not even want to consider it a monster movie because it's just more of a comedy, but I love it. I embrace it for what it is. Next, we have The Wolfman, released in 1941. Wolfman stars Claude Rains, Warren William, Lon Chaney Jr., Ralph Bellamy, Bela Lugosi, Evelyn Ankers, and is directed by George Wagner. Now, this one I completely adore. This film as well. I love Lon Chaney Jr.'s performance as Larry Talbot. He is so good in here. It's so funny because most of the other films in the 30s had characters that were supposed to be like British or from England and everything, and the Wolfman comes along and you've got Lon Chaney Jr., an American, and he's just so fun playing his role. I mean, he's serious at the same time, but he has just got so much charisma and so much coolness factor to his character. And it's a shame that the character ends up, getting bit by Bela Lugosi's Bela, the werewolf, and turned into the Wolfman. He's cursed to walk the earth as a Wolfman. But I mean, the performances in this, Ralph Bellamy is pretty good in here, playing a character named Colonel Paul Monteford in there, and of course Evelyn Ankers is gorgeous and awesome always in her performance. For whatever reason, Evelyn Ankers and Lon Chaney Jr. were always in a lot of movies together. I don't know if they maybe had something going on as far as a relationship or what, but it's cool that they were in so many films together. But Wolfman, again, just like Werewolf of London, it has amazing special effects on the transformation scenes from Lon Chaney into the Wolfman. Ironically, Bela Lugosi's so-called Wolfman, he turns fully into a wolf when he's supposed to turn into a... Now, we don't see the transformation, but we see a real so-called wolf. It's a dog posing as a wolf in the scenes, but it works for what it was. But yeah, and as usual, Claude Rains is just what an actor he was. He gives a very charismatic performance playing the father of Lon Chaney Jr. in here. It's just funny seeing the father and son standing by each other, because Lon Chaney Jr. is this 6'5", 6'6" monster of a man, and he's standing next to Claude Rains, who is just a normal sized guy, and he looks like a midget compared to Lon Chaney. But my review of The Wolfman from 1941. I give this film a 9.0 out of 10. This film is one of my favorites of all time, and I will defend it to my dying day. It ages very well, I think. I think when you watch it today, it has just as big an impact as it had back then. So, all right. Next we have Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942. Ghost of Frankenstein stars Cedric Hardwicke, Lon Chaney Jr., Bela Lugosi, and Evelyn Ankers. Ghost of Frankenstein is directed by Earl C. Kenton. Now, this film continues with the Igor character, and he is equally as good in his portrayal of the character in Ghost of Frankenstein as he was in his introduction in Son of Frankenstein. Cedric Hardwicke is playing a descendant of Victor Frankenstein, and he's always good, but he's trying here to play the more likable character, whereas before this, you had Colin Clive and you had Basil Rathbone, and both those actors can play a character that can act a little crazy in moments and still be a charismatic and lovable character. Cedric Hardwicke was more a good actor at playing nasty bastards in films. So having him play in this as a Dr. Frankenstein type, it is a little bit off-putting in the film. He still does great, but it's just so different seeing him play something like that. Lon Chaney Jr. as the Frankenstein monster he's not as good as he was at playing the character of Larry Talbot, but he is a fairly suitable replacement for Boris Karloff, who chose not to reprise his role and come back, considering that he's getting a little too old to be trying to play the Frankenstein monster, apparently. And he probably wanted to just move on to different roles. But, again, Evelyn Ankers is in this, and she's just so beautiful and so good in her role as well. This time, she can't play the love interest to Lon Chaney Jr. because Lon Chaney Jr. is playing the Frankenstein monster. But a very good sequel to Son of Frankenstein. Good direct follow-up to it, and I didn't mention it before, but you also have Lionel Atwill in this film. He is not playing his same character that he played in Son of Frankenstein, unfortunately, though. So that kind of hurts. But Earl C. Kenton directs a really good film here. It is well shot, well put together, very well written. So I will give Ghost of Frankenstein from 1942 a 7.5 out of 10. Not the best, not the greatest of the Universal Monster movies, but it's pretty damn good. Next up we have Invisible Agent from 1942. Invisible Agent stars Ilona Massey, John Hall, Peter Lorre, Cedric Hardwicke, and is directed by Edwin L. Marin. Now, this film is kind of like Universal was wanting to do a little bit of a combination of Casablanca with the Invisible Man movies, and kind of trying to make John Hall's character get turned into an invisible man and be a hero to face off against Nazis and stuff and everything. And it's just this whole Invisible Man series is all over the place, as far as, you have the original movie, which is a quirky, fun film, and then you have Invisible Man Returns, which is a serious, dramatic film, and then you get The Invisible Woman, which is totally just a fun comedy. And now you have this, which is basically a, action film. So it is a little bit, it's a great film, though. I mean, it's still well shot, well put together. It's got some really cool sequences. The special effects are still great in it for the Invisible, man stuff and everything. And got great performances still, too. You have Peter Lorre as your main villain in this thing. So, that's something right there. John Hall as your main hero is suitable. He's really does a pretty good job in here. Ilona Massey is an attractive actress and everything. And of course you got Cedric Hardwicke in here playing a role that's more suiting for him as a bad guy. So I will give Invisible Agent from 1942 a 6.9 out of 10. As a Universal Monsters movie, it just goes a little bit to the off-the-wall kind of thing, trying to go all Casablanca on us here. But still not a bad film. Next we have The Mummy's Tomb, released in 1942. The Mummy's Tomb stars Lon Chaney Jr., Dick Foran, John Hubbard, Elyse Knox, George Zucco, and Wallace Ford. The Mummy's Tomb is directed by Harold Young. Now, Mummy's Tomb is a direct continuation of The Mummy's Hand, unlike The Mummy as opposed to The Mummy's Hand. They directly follow the events in The Mummy's Hand in this film. And this time we get Lon Chaney Jr. taking over and becoming the Mummy, playing the role of Karras. And he is so good. Tom Tyler wasn't shabby as the Mummy in The Mummy's Hand, but to me, there's two roles that Lon Chaney excelled at, and that was as Larry Talbot / the Wolfman, and as the Mummy. He makes a very imposing, very badass mummy. And considering the fact that the Mummy's Hand was more comical in spots with the Wallace Ford character and the quirky little romance between Dick Foran and Peggy Moran, this one kind of steps it up and makes it more dramatic. And in fact, within the first 20 minutes of the movie, they have already killed off not only our main hero from the first film, Dick Foran, but then a few minutes later, they end up killing off Wallace Ford as well. Peggy Moran did not return for this film, so they just explained that she died in between the two films, apparently. Her character did, at least. So the rest of the movie follows John Hubbard, who plays Dick Foran's son in here. His love interest is Elyse Knox, and she's cute. She does a good job acting in it. Like I said, these 40s movies, the acting is a lot better than the acting was in a lot of those 1930s movies. So, and then we have George Zucco returning as the main man that is responsible for bringing the monster, the mummy, back. Great follow-up to The Mummy's Hand, and my rating on this film, I give this one a 8.5 out of 10. It's a great mummy movie. Excellent. Well done. Next up, we have Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman from 1943. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman stars Lon Chaney Jr., Ilona Massey, Patrick Knowles, Bela Lugosi, and Lionel Atwill. Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman was directed by Roy William Neill. Now, this one, it has continuity issues because it's supposed to be directly following Ghost of Frankenstein, and Frankenstein's monster, as played by Bela Lugosi in this one, is supposed to be blind, yes, which he acts like that, but he's also supposed to be able to talk because it's freaking Igor, which made perfect sense casting Bela Lugosi as frickin' the Frankenstein monster, because at the end of the last movie, he had his brain transplanted into him, and he was talking in Igor's voice, So, I mean, this one, it just starts up, and apparently, somewhere in the making of the film, they did a screening after they finished it, and they had him actually talking with the Igor voice, but dumbass people that they screened the movie to said they thought it was comical and stupid, him talking like that. Well, it makes sense with the previous freaking story. What are you complaining about, stupid asses? And instead of being smart and just saying, screw that, let's just release it, they ended up just cutting all of Bela Lugosi's dialogue, apparently, which I think hurts this overall film. Now, yes, the final battle between the Wolfman and Frankenstein is pretty fun and pretty cool and all, but this one really suffers. And once again, we have Lionel Atwill coming back in here, and he's being wasted. He's not playing the same character he played in the... well, thankfully, he's not playing the same character he played in Ghost of Frankenstein either. But, I mean, I don't know why each one of these Frankenstein films decided to bring Lionel Atwill in, but not just have him reprise his role, playing that awesome character that he played in Son of Frankenstein. But he didn't. He never got to reprise that role, unfortunately. But Lon Chaney Jr., as always, was great getting to play Larry Talbot. It just pains me because you've seen my review of The Wolfman. I love The Wolfman. It just pains me that movie never got its own, sequels, just follow-ups without having other characters thrown in there. like the Frankenstein monster and stuff. But overall, this movie's just so just because of the fact that they studio interference due to stupid screenings. So, my review of Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, I give this one a 6.5 out of 10. Should have been a knock out of the park, man. Easy victory, but they screwed it up, unfortunately. Next we have Phantom of the Opera, released in 1943. Phantom of the Opera stars Nelson Eddy, Susanna Foster, Claude Rains, and Edgar Barrier. Phantom of the Opera is directed by Arthur Lubin. Phantom of the Opera, 1943, was the first Universal Monsters movie to be released in Technicolor. Now, I'm not much for musicals. I don't really care for musicals, so the fact that this one has Nelson Eddy and Suzanne Foster, which was basically, two singers at the time playing these roles and singing to each other throughout this Phantom of the Opera movie. But since it is Phantom of the Opera, you have to go into a Phantom of the Opera movie and expect that kind of thing, because it is about an opera house. So you're going to have characters singing in it. So I've learned to live with that a bit. And this is one of the better Phantom of the Opera movies. Claude Rains is one part sinister in his portrayal, but at the same time he makes you actually like him. He makes himself likable. Just not... Nelson Eddy and Susanna Foster are singers first and foremost. They're not the best of actors, and that, But I have to give them credit. They're better than some of those actors from the 1930s, such as Helen Chandler and David Manners. So, Arthur Lubin did a pretty good remake of the Lon Chaney classic silent film, The Phantom of the Opera, with this one. I would give The Phantom of the Opera 1943. I would give this film a 7.0 out of 10. It's one of the better Phantom of the Opera movies. So, what did you think of these movies? Did you agree with my reviews of these movies? Let me know in the comments down below. And please, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe, because it really does help this channel out a lot. And this was only the first part of the 1940s. I'll be doing part 2 very soon. So I hope you will stick around and come back and catch that one as well. Anyway, thank you for watching.